Greg Brooks is the National Director of Business Development at RocketStation. Check out the interview here. We talk about how you can use virtual assistants to scale and make your business more efficient. Thank you and enjoy the episode. Absolutely love the downtown view of Dallas there if you guys are watching on YouTube. But Greg, thanks for coming on, man. I was excited to get this interview booked.
Yeah, man. No, I appreciate you having it. I feel like we went from pre-COVID world, we were talking like weekly, and then business picked up, the world changed, so it's been good to kind of carve out some time to reconnect.
Absolutely, bro. I would love to hear more about RocketStation, more about you, kind of a general state of the union of what you got going on here, April 2021.
Yeah, for sure, man. So anybody that doesn't know RocketStation. So we're a real estate specific virtual staffing company. As you can see behind me, based in Dallas, Texas. We've got our sister company and our VAs based over in the Philippines. Really for the last almost 10 years, catering specifically to the real estate space. So we've got three verticals of our business: property managers, the retail side of it, brokerage and agents, and then obviously the investor, covering everything from multifamily syndication down to single family wholesaling, creative financing, notes, you name it. We help our clients build processes around what they need to get done and find them rock stars to get plugged in. So obviously part of the reason why we haven't connected, last year was crazy for everybody, right? I hope everyone's, safe and starting to kind of figure out this new landscape, but a great year for us, really able to drive a lot of solutions and help a lot of our clients out who were trying to navigate this new virtual world that we were all kind of forced into, and realizing that VAs and virtual team members, whether located elsewhere in the US or like us overseas in the Philippines, can be just a massive tool that can help you just leverage and grow and scale like crazy.
Absolutely, man. And a ton of our 80/20 Academy members and InvestorFuse members over the years have used you guys, loved you guys, and it's been awesome seeing their growth on really just some relatively small tweaks, small hires, getting things organized as far as kind of McDonaldizing your business, if I can use that as a word here kindly, in a very sufficient way that you guys do with onboarding, the first discovery call, everything like that. I guess to kick things off, I'm kind of interested in just like the origination of virtual assistants in the real estate space or business in general, because it's kind of a weird concept to think about. Even back in the day when I was wholesaling prior to InvestorFuse full time, it's kind of crazy to think about having a startup real estate investing company, essentially a mom and pop type company, and part of your staff is overseas in the Philippines or something like that. It's a little bit of a wild concept, but I feel like it's very normal now. But even myself, I'm not fully sure on how that came to be. Probably from 4-Hour Work Week, like we said before we got started, is the first exposure that I've seen to it. Just kind of, and I think one of the biggest things is kind of opening up your mind to the possibility of that and other things, and just being able to question things, taking a very far step back, as I like to do, is a powerful thing. So I'd love to hear kind of your version on how virtual assistants or overseas staff for real estate investors came to be.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you're right. For most people, I'll say the common folk, as you're coming up, whether it's through school or just through professional development, like 4-Hour Work Week, everyone reads it. The title speaks for itself. Like, yeah, get me there, sell me, take my money. How do I work 4 hours and live a lifestyle that I want? But a big kind of concept that gets introduced there is do what you want, outsource the rest. So I think most people, that's their first exposure. But what a lot of people don't realize is, the major financial institutions in the U.S., most of the major Fortune 500, all of the big FANG groups, all of these big social media companies, JP Morgan, like all the big financial institutions, they've been doing this for 50, 60, 70 years. It's a tool that major business people who in the past, and I'm talking like 80s, 90s, early 2000s, you had to have massive capital and outsourcing, which is really what VAs are. It was really only available to, those multi-billion, approaching $1 trillion companies, because you had to go into countries like the Philippines or India or Bangladesh, right, all over the world, and have the capital to invest in infrastructure, invest in office space, invest in just building teams. And I know we'll get into that here in a little bit, but just finding reliable people that could bridge that gap between American business, American culture, and still be able to invest in, literally teams of hundreds of thousands of people in other countries that we're eventually going to service, you know, US customers, US business practices. So really like what we've done is really just kind of try to professionalize, you know, that experience. VAs and just outsourced team members. We're using the term virtual team members now, just because that's really what they are. It doesn't matter the way the internet has become more accessible, the way infrastructure and stability has expanded to those countries over the last 25 years. You know, it's just allowed you to really just open up your doors to where you don't have to only look for talent in Dallas or talent in Baltimore. You know, you literally can look, depending on the job, depending on your budget, depending on what you're doing and where you're trying to get to. Like, the world is literally your playground. And obviously we'll get into this, the work that goes into that, finding the right people, but really kind of just like everything the internet has done, right? Bringing things that used to only be segmented to the top 1%, right? The people who worked for those big companies and had all the money, bringing that same accessibility to top talent. And I truly mean top talent all over the world is really what we're all about, and really where the VA space, even in my 3 years almost in the space, I've seen it personally mature. Just from everyone's used to the freelancer, the Upwork, I met someone on Facebook, or my buddy who's an investor shot me a couple VAs that they use that were good. And now it's really become a professionalized staffing, you know, option and solution, where it's no longer like, hey, go scrub this list for me. You know, you can really empower your team members and find people that have tons of experience in every corner of the world. So, I mean, we're one of a bunch of companies across all the different industries that are kind of taking this new approach to it. But really, I mean, it's just about leveraging your own time, and how the world has just become an owner, a CEO, a small business owner's playground to find the right people to plug in, regardless of budget, experience, skill set. Like, you can really be creative with finding individuals to plug them in wherever you need them.
I absolutely love that. And I love the concept of our niche entrepreneur that has a real estate investing company taking the same principles and philosophies of these big billion, budding $1 trillion companies, as far as just making checklist, playbook, and processes, and then also just being able to utilize overseas staff just at a lower cost, more efficient cost. But again, like, I know in the Philippines that's plenty of money for them, even though it's a low dollar per hour, or seems to be a low dollar per hour in US dollars. So I absolutely love to hear that. Yeah, we could take this a number of different ways. You have 3 years, you said, experience over there at RocketStation. I would love to hear kind of your progression of, you know, how your company has gone the last few years with experience. We know this last one was pretty wild. And before we started recording, we were talking about how I'm always trying to find the silver linings kind of automatically when I think, but it did really press the fast forward button on being able to work virtually for real estate investors and entrepreneurs. And then for civilians, people that aren't entrepreneurs or in the real estate space, I lovingly call, it kind of opened up their mind to the possibility of like, hey, I don't need to go to an office to clear out my email inbox, or go to a meeting, or work on this team project or something like that, or collaborate with my team. I can do a lot of this from home. My roommates have been here the last year. Coincidentally, I think they both went to an office today though, which hasn't happened in a while. But yeah, we'd love to hear kind of your last 3 years, and maybe the progression of virtual assistants before we dive into outsourcing, and how entrepreneurs can find their passion by just having more creativity and time on their hands and things like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And a lot of people, I mean, our team does a great job of putting our message out there, getting us in front of people. But like, rewind 3 years for me, other than the IT department at the Fortune 500 company I was working at, I had never worked with someone in the Philippines. I didn't know what outsourcing was. And like, sitting here now today, obviously post-COVID world, internet usage, adaptability being expedited tenfold to what it was going to be. I mean, I would never do business any other way. We were talking like, I mean, this is how InvestorFuse and the team over there, you know, you guys do your remote hangouts. I mean, we're the same way. We go over, you know, when world's a little bit normal, once, twice a year to get together in the Philippines, to get our US team that's spread all out together. But yeah, it was something that I didn't even know about. If you would have told me 3 years ago, oh yeah, you can, you know, build a successful, you know, 6, 7, 8, 9-figure business with people scattered throughout the world, I would have laughed and got on my plane and went to my meeting in person. And done the typical grind. But yeah, it's been crazy to see how quickly this business model has been adopted. And speaking specifically to real estate, where we are, is I used to, kind of lead our calls or even in coaching with my internal team. It's like, what can we do? How do we do it? We're very broad in scope in terms of how we do it because we're so process oriented. We work with our clients to take the deep dive, to uncover the process, because that's where every job function begins, right? That's where a lot of people lose efficiency. They lose time. They burn people out. It's on the fact that there isn't clarity with what are the roles and responsibilities of that individual. And I always reinforced to our team, like, well, how can I use a VA? How can I plug them in? What could they even do? If you're doing the work on the phone or you're doing the work on the computer, you can probably outsource it or at least get it off your plate. So, I mean, that's really how simple it is. And now, I mean, it was already trending this way. Now it's just been expedited. That's most of modern day real estate, right? Whether it's from the marketing strategies that individuals are using, texting, RVM, social media, paid, like it's all coming through a computer, a soft phone. CRM platforms like InvestorFuse are allowing you to automate a lot of that, which is just putting everybody here, right? I'm staring at a computer screen with a nice little circle ring light behind me, and that's where business is being done now. So as long as you can kind of see that and understand, like, what positions do I need in place that can focus on strategy, that can be my decision makers, that can see that vision, which for me personally, I would say that's the owner, right? The owner of the business, your upper execs, you hired them for a specific skill set. They align with your cultural values, and they align with kind of the drum that you're playing to build your company. But 80% of work is not that, right? 80% of the work is the people that take those marching orders and execute every single day. And all that execution is happening on the internet, right? And it doesn't matter if you're buying locally in your backyard. It doesn't matter if you're an iBuyer buying all over the country or in other countries. Like, most of that work can either be automated, or for the button clicks that need to happen, the calls that need to be placed, it can be routed through a team member that doesn't matter if they're in Denver, Miami, Dallas, or the Philippines. They can get it done at a high level if you give them the tools and give them the clarity with exactly what you're trying to get accomplished. So I think that's been the biggest change. Is, I mean, even a year and a half ago, my team, it was always trying to find on, our consultation calls, trying to find creative ways to paint this picture of how this can be normal. And then so often we would hear 30 days, 60 days into actually working with the VA, like, shoot, like, if I would have known it was this, I wouldn't have, held off getting set up for 2 months. Like, I would have jumped right in. Like, that used to be the norm. And now, with everything that's gone on, and with people's eyes being opened, and us all being on 5.5 million Zoom calls in the last 365 days, like, we're not having that conversation anymore. It makes sense. It's more now, and what I would say is, like, kind of a leave behind early on here for your listeners, is you got to pick your partners very carefully, because now it's about how can we be deliberate and intentional to get the outcome through this new norm of going online. Because, like I said, if you're doing the business right, most of what you're doing in your day-to-day is in front of a computer, in front of an email, in front of your CRM. So this can, VAs, the outsourcing space, can become a very powerful tool for you to keep driving business forward and keep scaling.
Love that. What does a typical discovery call look like? And we can keep this blended across any type of experience level of the investor. And I think one thing that we can talk about, guys, because Greg has worked with so many companies over the last 3 years, hundreds, if not thousands, probably. And as you mentioned, about 5 million Zoom calls, roughly.
Rounded up.
Yeah, are just commonalities of successful companies. And he's seen the progression of a lot of companies hiring their first VA to, and it's such a buzzword thing. Like, I don't want everybody to think, necessarily they need to make an additional hire to a VA or hire their first one, but they're going to strongly consider it after listening to Greg here. But a lot of it is the mindset of just being able to take a step back from your business and seeing what type of stuff, like if you put an hourly value on yourself for the 168 hours there are in a week, a third of that's hopefully sleeping just for your best cognitive and body performance. Besides that, guys, the world is kind of your playground for personal and business. So I think that's going to be a big thing. At least I would like you guys to have from this interview, is kind of taking a step back and seeing what type of stuff can be outsourced. And a lot of that, as Greg will tell you, with successful companies that use RocketStation, I think he said roughly like 80% of that type of stuff can be outsource. So would love to hear kind of typically like what is a perfectly executed discovery call go over, and maybe some things that you outline with your team, and we can kind of progress it through that
Yeah, for
stage
sure.
the stage there.
For sure. And obviously, anybody that wants to get on a call, check out the website. There's tons of call to actions to get on a call with myself or my team. But for us, I think the biggest thing, and this doesn't matter if you're running an 8-figure a year, wholesaling investment business, or if you're just getting going and you're just kind of coming to that epiphany, like, hey, me making cold calls all day is probably not the best use of my time, and I'm sick of people yelling at me. The commonality that I see is really just people understanding that, number one, skill sets, when you put the right process in place, anything can be taught, right? There's not any real estate investor out there that came out of the womb ready to go, knowing how to wholesale, flip, wholesale deals, whatever the case may be. So it's once you can make that transition, and we call it like employee mindset, right? So many times within real estate, whether it's our team members, whether it's ourselves just getting going, it's that employee mindset, right? To where it's like, we're used to working for the machine. We know that we got to put X amount of hours in to get X amount of dollars out. And it's that constant trade-off. And like one of our favorite quotes we've got all over our office is the Rockefeller quote. It's like, would you rather make 100% returns on just your work, or would you rather make 1% return on 100 people's work? Right. And that's kind of the mentality that we start. So for a discovery call for us, it's really just kind of getting the parameters of like, where are you at with your business? Are you doing one transaction a month? Are you still fighting to get that first transaction under your belt? Are you paying for coaching? Or are you the guy that's doing 10, 15, 20 deals a year, and you're just trying to level up the existing team that you've got, as well as be a little bit more budget friendly? And the common thing that we see out of all of that is just there's no clarity. Number one, like, what do I need to do to get there? How can I be the owner of the company? Or even if they have that strategic vision, it's like, well, I don't have time to sit there and work with a consultant, or to just sit in front of my massive whiteboard and write out everything that Johnny and Sally and Steve do for me every day. But really, like, that's where we try to be that custom fit, that real partner with our clients, because for us, how we see it, being in the human capital business, right? Being in the employment business, all those sites like Indeed and ZipRecruiter, that's all good, right? They make tons of money. They are on my radio. They're on my Spotify all day, every day, marketing, hiring, and how it's easy and we'll automate the resumes. But for us, yes, matching the person, having that skill set, talent pool is very important. But for us, where we really feel like owners just get punched in the gut over and over and over again, and where it's like, well, screw it, I'm just going to do it myself, is because there's no process, there's no clarity, there's no organization to, number one, how are we going to find this person? But then say we do find them, how are we then going to onboard them into our culture? How are we going to make sure that they've got the support that they need? How can we make them successful and give them clarity in their role, while also making sure that our management, or ourselves as the manager, as the one man or woman show, will be able to have KPIs and numbers? And I've heard you guys talk about this a lot. Obviously, the book Traction, everyone loves it, right? It makes sense, from setting your rocks, doing your quarterly evaluations. The one thing they mentioned in there is you got to document what you're doing. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. The part that they don't include is that documentation phase, number one, is critical. And number two, it's not easy. And for most business owners, especially in real estate, we're probably at one point or another, you've cut the ties on a W-2 that provided for your family to say, I'm going to go chase that goal. Most investors, property managers, agents, top performing brokerages that I see, they're firefighters. Give me a problem, I'll make it work. I'm going to push the envelope and make it happen to provide for my family, my team, my company, whatever. But when it comes to creating scalability and driving efficiency, that's not the attitude you can have, right? You can't just be like, when a problem comes up, I'm going to put water on it, right? We've got to plan ahead to make sure that problem never happens. So that's really, I kind of say, a long-winded way of saying that's where our team like really tries to help. And the biggest thing that I see on discovery calls is so many people, whether it's just the VA hiring experience, where it's undependable people, not good results. Sometimes you get lucky and you find someone who sticks for 5, 6, 7 years, or if it's just burnout from the daily grind of having to put these fires out. That's the one thing that it doesn't matter if you haven't done your first deal or you're on deal number 12,000. I mean, that's the thing that I consistently see everybody coming to. It's like, hey, we know how to do this, or I know where I want to get to. I just don't know how to build that roadmap. So that's where we're trying to change the game in the VA space, but also just really provide partnership to our clients to say, hey, you've got this, you've got the knowledge. Let us be the tool, be the pen, if you will, to get that out, organize it, put structure to it, put someone on that role that actually has that skill set to take the chaos of business and organize it and create clear process and definition and organizational charts so that you as the business owner can have that literally that visual to see your company, where you're trying to get to, who's being used where people need to be maximized and level up. And then typically what that leads to is there's a lot of people who either aren't cutting it and probably still shouldn't be on the payroll, but oh, we've spent 6 months training them. We don't want to waste all that time and money, even though they're only doing 60% of their job. Like, cool, we'll stay there. We'll just keep them, because the other option is either you got to do it yourself or you got to hire again. And who wants that nightmare? And then you're able to trim that fat. Or the other thing is that you start to realize, like, if you have great people, which most of the clients that I work with do, you're probably burning them out, right? And I know COVID obviously changed the hiring, the job landscape a little bit. But I mean, up until then, it was the most booming economy ever. I mean, the average retention for somebody at a job was like just over a year. So it's like, when you talk about someone who has that knowledge, how are you helping them be successful, keeping them in their area of excellence? And all that crap, all the button clicks, all the administrative type work that burns everybody out, all of our top performers, how are you getting that off the plate? And then more importantly, how are you doing that budget friendly? So that's kind of how where we look. It's 9 times out of 10 the same issue every single time. So we just kind of act as that tour guide, if you will, to say, hey, you've got this. You've just told me all this. You have an operating business. Let us walk you through our plan to get that compartmentalized, documented out, so that you can be confident in handing it off to either your teammates or future VAs.
Love it. Part of the reason I love RocketStation so much as far as the service is kind of that two-prong area where talk about burnout and just taking time when it's not in your expertise. I absolutely hate spending time on something that's not my area expertise. Like, I was trying, like a month or two ago, I was trying to fix a printer in my room, and I spent an hour troubleshooting. It hurts me even saying this. I spent like an hour trying to troubleshooting it, and then I just bought a brand new one with a nice warranty. But the two of the things I love about people in our network working with RocketStation is kind of that two-prong area. One is finding the talent. Like, if you're not a job recruiter or have experience on Indeed like Nick Perry or something like that, like, that's just not going to be the best use of your time as far as like where your creativity is at. And then also just bringing you on board, being that tour guide, or, showing you how to do that. So it's just, you're just outsourcing pretty much like an HR role in your company. And then also it's someone that's going to come in. I forget the book, but talking about how McDonald's essentially was able to grow so effectively by pretty much making those playbooks and processes. That's exactly what RocketStation helps you guys do in your business. Quick question I had that just kind of came up when you were talking. If you have an idea of, let's just take a wholesaling operation, are most of the VA outsourced responsibilities on the lead generation side? If you had to say between like lead gen and marketing, acquisitions, dispositions, admin, HR type stuff, where would you say that most of the delegatable activities are for VAs?
For sure. So where I will say where our clients get to as they mature through, because like I said, we deal with a lot of, everyone's used to the VA connotation, the tag. Candidly, our company, we're moving to virtual team members because our team members plug in with your teams. Because like VAs, it's just got, I mean, Upwork, Fiverr, you can get great people. There's great people. There's task-based work. But I feel like in real estate, VAs is sold as that like magic pill. But a lot of people, they chew on it and realize it doesn't taste too good. It's not hard. At the end of the day, it's hiring people. But I would say probably 80, maybe even 90% of our clients in the investment space, doesn't matter what size their business is, they're trying to get stability in the lead gen piece. That's the initial start where we start with a lot of our clients. Because a lot of people, they're used to saying, hey, I want to get these cold calls off of my acquisitions guy's plate. Easy answer, hire a VA. So that's where most of our initial conversations, initial hires definitely start, because everyone's trying to avoid this loop, right? Everyone gets stuck. Like Rob always tells a story, being a former large scale investor here in Dallas. Like, he was stuck in the 8-12 week cycles. Do your marketing, send it out, pound your phone calls, get a few hot leads, maybe 15-20% of your actual calls, render deals, forget about the 80%, chase, and then 8, 10, 12 weeks later, back to start. You've forgotten about 80% of the people that cost you money, Plus now you've got to figure out your next marketing strategy, send your next postcards, make your next round of cold calls. So I think a lot of people where we're really truly area industry experts, we're able to help you come in, take the marketing you're doing and give you scale right away. Where our platform matures our clients through is then once those deals and that deal volume becomes a bottleneck with transaction coordination, or it becomes a bottleneck on the admin side, or it becomes a bottleneck on the disposition side because now you're doing more business. All of a sudden, seeing how easy it was to build those systems, document your processes, bring scale to what you're doing and how you're doing it, now we become the easy answer to level up your existing team that you've got working in each of those capacities, as well as backfill with VAs to keep kind of growing your company and allow everybody to level up. And like, let's be honest, like I know you're this, the podcast we're on here, it's got a wide array of people that listen, but like most people are wearing the acquisitions dispositions hat, or they're really close to it as a business owner. So it's like, perfect. I can not have to make cold calls. I can be an acquisitions person. I can make sure I sell these deals out the backside and then hire someone to take over as acquisitions, transition to just dispo. We create that pathway for you to continue to level yourself up to be the business owner. Don't be the dispositions person. Don't be the acquisitions person. You need to know your numbers, manage your business, build your culture, drive your team. And definitely that starts with lead gen, because that's the lifeblood of any real estate investment business. But I think we're able to, and what really makes our team happy is we're able to really level up the experience to where, okay, we've got lead gen squared away. Well, now we got a problem in acquisitions, or we've got a problem in transaction coordination. We're able to continue to level up to document, create processes, create efficiency, create scale, while also backfilling all of those hours of work that either we're wearing people out, asking them to do it when it's kind of beneath them, or just new work that's being brought in because now we're doing 6 deals a month, and last month we only did 1. Kind of allowing you to, as you learn, as you grow as a business owner, be able to compartmentalize, document processes, and then backfill and hire and really grow a company that every investor can be proud of. And I think for most people, you can stop clocking the hours and punching in every single day and start to trust your team to handle it, because there's confidence in the process, confidence in the people, and you can be that business owner, whatever that means for the individual themselves.
Love that, man, and very well said. You guys could have some really high quality customer case studies with some people that I know that have gone through that pretty much front to back with you guys.
So you must have early access to our new website that we're rolling out here in a couple months. I know CC's been on here a few times. He's obviously big in the 80/20 Academy. We've got a case study rolling out with him.
Nice.
We're working with Frank and John over at what's their company? I'm losing it now. Grayline?
Yeah, Grayline.
Working with them to do a case study. I mean, their growth has been.
Oh, that's amazing. You're hitting all the 80/20 members. We'll have to do something.
We love our 80/20 guys. Yeah. So we've got a bunch coming out to really just keep painting that picture to show you, like, hey, this is where you're at. If you're feeling these pains, I'm having to do follow-ups. People are falling through the cracks. I'm losing deals. Here's a clear path for how you can level up and get out of that and really build a company to be proud of.
Yeah, man. I mean, even that's funny because I really had no idea. But CC is a longtime friend, and then John and Frank just met within the last year. I did an interview with John because he's a mental performance coach at West Point Academy, still a full-time job, and is building out this real estate company, which is amazing. They both played football at Army. But even with them, it's cool to even see CC now, where when I was texting with him, getting our interview set up for next week, or the last couple of weeks we were talking, and he's like, man, this is like the first time in my business career that I've pretty much been in the owner seat. Like, I'm kind of just doing very high level stuff. He bought a one-way ticket to Dominican Republic, was chilling out there for a while. He just came back to South Carolina, is about to go back out there. But it's cool being able to see him with InvestorFuse and the Academy the last few years grow up to that, which is absolutely amazing. It's cool seeing it as a tangible thing instead of just reading about it in a 4-hour work week or a virtual real estate investing book. Do you guys have any rhythm to check in on, or like kind of going from brand new work at RocketStation all the way up to an owner level, like the Matt and CC's or Frank and John, or is it more so, and maybe a mix of both, where you kind of knock it out department by department or feel for some pain points? I know it's a little bit of a loaded question, but I'm just kind of thinking out loud what I'm thinking in my head here, or saying out loud what I'm thinking in my head here of like, essentially distilling it down to what allows them to be successful and not other investors that kind of stay in the firefighter type role, which I realize is kind of like this psychological makeup or personality makeup of most investors.
For sure. I think especially in real estate, because I mean, a lot of people, whether it's you want to take over the world and be the biggest wholesaler in the US, or if you just want a lifestyle brand where you can balance family and go to the kids stuff. I mean, now with homeschooling and kids being home, like the guys and girls that had it set up correctly, I mean, they were laughing, right? When those schools shut down and those kids were stuck at home, they were able to get on the Zoom calls and teach. I think the biggest thing that we see for our clients is it's definitely that breath of fresh air, right? It's going through it, knowing, and guys like CC, guys like John, guys like Frank, like they know like process. I mean, John and Frank are a great example. I mean, former Army guys. I mean, military is proof in practice that, I mean, how you tie your shoes up, there's a process for it, or how you tie your boots up, right? It speaks their language, but getting there, being able to say, hey, for 3 hours, I'm not going to answer my phone, or I'm not going to check my email when I know there could be 2 deals that could net me 50, 40, 30K each in there, and that's my livelihood. That's very tough to do when you're actually sitting at the desk, right? So I think where we like really help with our clients is just giving the business owner that pathway, right? It's all well and good to hire teams and empower them and get VAs in places or into roles where they've got clarity with what they want to do. But I think the biggest thing for the owner is like, now you have this tool in RocketStation where when we know we need to hire, we have someone who's going to do the heavy lifting with us to get that process, get that system, get that structure built out. Because what we're talking about is not only just like, okay, we do this and we do that and write it on a whiteboard, but you've got to build in-depth SOPs, step-by-step processes, turn it into checklists, create video trainings. Like that's not something that you can just sit down and in 20 minutes bang out. And the people that I talk to, that I work with that do, they know that doesn't work, and that just wastes even more time because nobody gets anything from that. It takes a skill set to organize that. And what I really see for clients like CC, Frank, John, is just the confidence that they have. I mean, number one, it's great to see somebody with all of those guys' backgrounds and their stories and be able to just be like, that's cool that we were a part of that, but really giving them a tool where they can be the best versions of themselves. And how we kind of cater that is not only the initial build out, but adding that B2B support layer where candidly, like a lot of VA companies, a lot of staffing companies even out there, it's like, yeah, once you go live with your VA, like you'll talk to them, but we'll have a manager there. But like really all that manager is, it's like a complaints waiter. They're just waiting for the VA to mess up or you to not like them. And then when you say, hey, I want to cancel, they come in to try to save the day and get you a new VA. Like there's no actual management support.
Proactive.
Whereas, like that work put in on the front end to build the processes, we actually can align with your business. Like we actually know what the objective is, what's the checklist, what does the daily task look like, so we can really partner and not only take a little bit of that micromanagement, people management piece off of you, but also be proactive when we do have our meetings, right? Whether it's weekly, monthly, quarterly, to actually say, hey, last month we talked about this. You guys were launching into this market. How did that go? Here's the KPIs that we pulled. Did this match? Was it successful? What's working? What's not? Because we have an actual baseline. It's not, hey, here's a whole bunch of people. You go train them. You have fun. You manage them. See ya. Like, how is anybody going to actually be able to be a partner in your business with that type of mentality? So we just try to level up the whole experience. And I think at the end of the day, it's confidence. Like it's just confidence in the business owner. I'm not trying to say that everybody that we work with, I mean, I know Frank, John, and Cece, even though Cece's calling me from a pool in the Dominican. I mean, I know he's working his butt off, right? Yeah. But it's like just all that stuff that stresses you out that you, as a business owner who took a chance on yourself, know it's not a good use of your time and you shouldn't be doing it. Being able to see that weight lifted is really, I think, what empowers our members and our clients and gives them, that confidence, not just in their teams, but in themselves, in their own business. They're like, hey, now I see the numbers. Now I got process. Now I'm able to scale or shrink however I want. That's really what for us, kind of gives us those warm and fuzzies at RocketStation is when, we get that Google review that's just like this novel where it's like, number one, awesome that you now have time to even write that for us because 6 months ago you didn't. But really to like hear that story, how you actually impact the lives and help people build that business that they want.
Yeah, man, that's amazing. I'd love to hear you speak a little bit to, and I'm going to try to be cognizant of saying virtual teammate or virtual team member. I like that a lot more than VA and kind of the thought that comes with virtual assistant and VA, how, people try to chew that pill. It doesn't always taste good. I like virtual teammate better, virtual team member.
And
Speak a little bit to
don't feel
culture.
too guilty. Don't feel too guilty. Yeah, don't feel too guilty. We still spend way too much on marketing to the VA hashtag. So don't worry here. We'll get you there. We'll work on it. It's a
Awesome.
stepping stone here.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Speak a little bit to team culture though, because that's something that's huge. And we'll see, man. I mean, with COVID, this may just kind of be a way of the world moving forward. It seems at least that a lot more people will be able to do stuff virtually. Even some colleges this upcoming year seem like they're going to have a lot of just online classes and things of that nature. I'm sure the same will be for business, but I would love to hear kind of your 2 cents on company culture virtually. Since you guys have been doing it we've been doing it for a while virtually. That's definitely an important thing. And like, we've talked about RocketStation, traction, stuff like that, as far as like weekly or having a rhythm to meetings, internal company meetings and things like that. I'd love to hear just kind of a broad stroke on that topic.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll start with a story, a real story, before I get in and be the advocate as the VA guy for go virtual, go virtual.
Yeah.
One of our larger clients, they're a SaaS company in the property management space. So they've got a team. I think their team's probably about 60 strong. Through RocketStation, they've got 100 plus employees all over the states. They actually made the decision about 3/4 of the way through last year, and sold their 3 offices, corporate headquarters, as well as their 2 East Coast and West Coast satellite offices, and have not looked back. I know there is a lot of studies coming out now. We're starting to kind of see productivity studies and such come out. That data set is obviously going to get a lot bigger, but working with a large, prosperous, probably Fortune 2000 company, big player in the property management space, who made the hard stop and said, nope, we're going to this new way of work. We're going to give our people flexibility from working from home. And not only that, supporting them in it. They added some great programs around childcare, around additional resources for the home office. So they really did it the right way. And from our standpoint, being a company that's been virtual for 9 years now, almost 10, I mean, just the thing that really rang true to us was the intention that they had behind it. And I think a lot of us, anybody who's been on that personal development path, who leads teams, who owns a company, has definitely read at great length, whether it's Start With Why by Simon Sinek, right? There's so many great books on culture, corporate culture. And a lot of that is centered around being in an office. So kind of what my personal opinion is, and starting to see it play out with our clients, as well as working for a company that's virtual, is I do think virtual is here to stay. I know personally, I've got 2 kids at home. I got a kindergartner and a 2-year-old, and sometimes daddy getting out of the house for a couple days every single week into the office is nice. It's a good break. I won't lie. I know my wife appreciates it as well. But I don't think the world obviously is going fully virtual, but I think hybrid, just like anything, you look at trends and consumer packaged goods, Amazon, what they did to disrupt. It's going that way. And I feel really strongly with, regardless of what side of the fence you're on, right? In office, fully virtual, kind of middle of the ground. I think the biggest thing that business leaders, and what I would challenge any of your listeners to, is like, what are your intentions behind virtual? And how are you being intentional about building a virtual culture? So very, very simple example is, it's like taking those monthly meetings, quarterly reviews that I hope most of our clients are doing, or the weekly meetups, that are the weekly top to tops that you have with your internal leadership team, or even your internal office. Like, how are you shifting that to virtual, right? How are you giving people time to be able to accommodate that? And I think the thing that's unique about 2020 was that, nobody saw it coming relatively. And the fact that there were so many other circumstances. It's a complete disruption. People have to kind of work their way into that new cadence. And then you've got things like those that had kids, like schools are closed. Like that is just, I can speak personally. That is just a life disruptor in general. But as things get a little bit more normal, as we see, kids back in school and offices begin to open up, what I would say is the biggest change I think we're going to see is the intention behind virtual. and whether it's a complete shift for some companies to close down office spaces, which obviously this being a real estate podcast is probably not desirable for some people out there.
Yeah.
But even if it's going to that hybrid model, which I think will kind of play out here, it's really going to be unique to see how people can be intentional. Because for us, I mean, hosting virtual town halls, building into our company budgets when COVID's not around, meetup budgets where each department can get together and be deliberate and have that funded by the company so you can still build those one-on-one relationships. I mean, we utilize Facebook Workplace, which is great. I mean, we've done fitness challenges, and I don't know if you remember, like, what was it, April? It was probably this time last year when that hand wash challenge was like taking over everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we did a company hand wash challenge, and we incentivize people for taking part in those events. So I think it's definitely a mind shift. I think we're going to see a lot of change in that space. And then kind of to close the loop here, I think it all comes down to process. I think the hesitation until we were forced to be, we were all kind of VAs last year. I mean, let's just call it what it is.
Mm-hmm.
For some time. I think it put a lot of companies kind of on notice for what we're talking about around systems and processes and org charts, where the companies where they just had good people, but really there wasn't any oversight. And I came from a company that was like that, where it was like, you got hired, do your job. We'll talk to you maybe a couple times a year. We'll fly you out for the corporate retreat. We're good. I think it put a lot of companies on notice to clearly define the roles, the responsibilities, the way we're going to conduct business. Because just being people, whenever you can't physically reach out and touch someone, when you can't just pop into Johnny's office down the road to see that he's in front of his computer. I mean, forget the fact that he's on Facebook, but at least he's on his computer, right? He's probably doing something.
Mm-hmm.
I think that made people a little nervous, right? Mm-hmm. It made people, that's kind of that, if you can see it, you can touch it, it's real. When, I mean, that's not really true. You can be just as unproductive in a work from home environment as you can in an office environment. So it's being intentional around the culture to motivate people to want to come in and bust their butts every single day, but then also in terms of how you're supporting them, understanding the new situations, the schooling, the daycare, being intentional around meetups and allotting time and, more importantly, money for that, I think is where the workforce is going, which personally I'm excited about. I like having the flexibility, and I think anytime you've got a company that trusts people, everybody wants that, right? Everyone, and I'm sure probably, especially in real estate, a lot of people jumped into real estate because they had the, and I won't swear because I don't know if you allow that, the a-hole boss, we'll call it the a-hole boss, that was the reason that they finally snapped and went into real estate. And I think this is going to build a lot of trust. And as long as you're intentional around it, we see it every day, where you can build a great team, have a company you love, have people that work really hard for the company mission every single day. But how are you, being the drummer to really set that beat for them to be able to march to it?
Absolutely, man. Love it. And very well said. Very awesome interview. At the end of the day, it all comes down to intention, processes. And in my opinion, you really get paid top dollar. You generate the most revenue when you're able to be as creative as possible, which, handing off the heavy lifting, a lot of the stuff to RocketStation and really taking the step back and having the mindset of this is huge. So this has been an awesome resource. I'm excited for the customer case study, which I did not know was coming, but that's going to be amazing for you guys to actually see specific into a business. But I think this is an amazing either intro to Greg and RocketStation, or kind of just a recall. If you guys have, I'm sure you guys have seen with InvestorFuse stuff and heard of RocketStation, but this is very good, succinct stuff, just kind of an update, State of the Union address on where the world is in this facet of kind of the overlapping businesses with SaaS and RocketStation real estate investing. So, dude, awesome stuff. Where is the best place to reach out? I'll put that in the show notes, just so if somebody wants to talk about their business, use RocketStation, all that stuff.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it. And like I said, definitely not a sales call. If you want to just come on, talk shop, see what it looks like, would love to spend 30 minutes with you. Obviously, RocketStation.com, www.rocketstation.com. Check that out. And then feel free, email me directly. My last name, it's Brooks, BROOKS, at RocketStation.com, BROOKS at RocketStation.com. Feel free to shoot me a note if you heard anything you want to dive in deeper. We've got some great content pieces that we've developed, case studies along with example process docs to kind of get your mind flowing around what does this actually look like in practice. Any way we can be a resource, feel free to reach out. or just blow
Love
up Carlos. He's got my info.
Yeah.
He'll get it to you.
Yeah. Also feel free to reach out to me. Well, Greg, awesome stuff, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate the service that you got going on. Having fun. I remember us at the last time I saw you in person, whole scaling live. We both had a
That's
booth
like
set
a
up.
lifetime
Houston.
ago, man.
That was a lifetime ago before COVID. But I remember we connected, and I was laughing because we were both talking to like investors when they're coming out of the speaking end, and you had college football. You had college football on the TV turned, and I was like, oh, nice. And you're like, yeah, man, what's going to attract everybody to come over and talk to me? Have some college football on, and then talk about their business and all the stuff we talk about this interview.
That's just because I didn't know you yet. I had to give you like the PC like business answer, but really it was just I wanted to watch college football. So whatever.
I love that. I love that. Well, good stuff. Guys, have a fantastic rest of your day. Stay focused. Have fun. Enjoy the process. See you guys.